Whew. It's cold out there. Glasses are still fogged up. And I wasn't even out there for that long. So, leave those there for a little while. So I just figured I'd turn the camera on and just do something different today. Just kind of see what comes out of my head this time. This could get my channel canceled or not. I don't think it will. I mean, it's pretty tame commentary coming up here so far, I think. What got me thinking though, just as I was outside doing a quick little walk around, I was going to film some video out there, but I thought, man, it's cold out there, it's windy, it's messing up the sound of the microphone and all that sort of stuff. So I just thought, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna film one from the car here. I think the temperature out there is about minus 20 Celsius. We've got a pretty good stiff breeze going out there, so it doesn't take too long before any kind of exposed skin starts to, you really start to feel it, and especially in the fingertips too. Even with gloves on, it doesn't take that long to get cold. So gotta rub those hands, and my wife will not let me come anywhere near her until these hands warm up. Not that, hey, don't get the wrong idea. So this is a family show. But when I get home, I will be going home to a house that is nice and warm, thankfully. I'm very thankful for that. And it's heated with natural gas. As is most of the houses in the city here, I would say, and in the whole metro area here where I'm at. It's Edmonton, Alberta, which is probably the northernmost major city in North America, with a million people in the area here. So it's a pretty decent population base. We all pretty well all heat with natural gas. Anybody that doesn't heat with natural gas, it's probably because they're not connected or they're not close to the natural gas network. So they're probably heating with propane. And other than that, you'll probably have a small number of people that are heating with some coal and also with wood. The bulk of the heating energy used in this area is going to be natural gas, and for a pretty significant portion of North America, it's going to be natural gas as well. There's a lot of talk lately that you've probably been hearing, where there are some locations that are trying to ban natural gas heating, natural gas appliances, and so forth. So I think that there's been talk about Vancouver. I've also been seeing stories about some places in the States as well, where there's moves to ban natural gas stoves for cooking. I mean, natural gas stoves for cooking is probably pretty ideal, but they're trying to ban them. I think there was a place I was reading about in Oregon that is trying to ban furnaces and heating and stoves, so any kind of appliance that uses natural gas. And I think they're trying to ban neighborhoods, like they're trying to ban pipes being even laid in new subdivisions. So I could be wrong on that, so let me know there. When you think about it, there is a tremendous amount of energy used for heat, and I'm not even going to touch the amount of energy that's used in industrial processes and applications. That's an enormous amount too. But just looking at home heating and the energy used there, and it's not like it's an option. Like if we're living here, and like I said, it's minus 20 Celsius here. That's pretty cold. And if you don't have heat, well, you're dead, basically. So heating for us is not an option. It's not a luxury item that we have the option for. So it's a necessity. Natural gas is probably the most efficient way, and this isn't an advertisement for natural gas or anything like that. But just practically speaking, natural gas is probably the most efficient way of heating. If you were to think about how you would heat with wood or with coal, well, let's look at wood for example. I mean, how would you heat an entire home for a winter with just wood? And people used to do it here all the time, right? So I mean, entire woodlots and forests would be cleaned out just to heat homes back in the pioneer days, right? So look at the amount of effort you would have to go through to cut down the wood or hire somebody to do it. I mean, nothing comes for free, so somebody's got to do it. If you do it yourself, how much work would that take, or how much money would you have to pay somebody else to harvest the wood, split the wood, stack the wood? So look at the amount of work it would take to heat your house the old-fashioned way, versus now where you just have the ability to push a couple of buttons on your thermostat, or if you got the old style sliders, you could just slide it to whatever heat you wanted. I mean, you think about that capability. I mean, people from 500 years ago would think this was the stuff of sorcery, being able to generate heat like this and on demand and keep a house at a comfortable temperature the entire year round. It's kind of amazing. So I've gone on about that enough. Now, what would it take to replace our current technology? So we're heating with natural gas right now. Very efficient, very convenient, burns clean. So that's fine. So one of the efforts underway now is to replace that with in the interim kind of a mixture of hydrogen and natural gas, and then maybe switch the entire system over to hydrogen. So that's fine. I mean, hydrogen, when you burn hydrogen, if I remember back to my high school chemistry, the only product of combustion from burning hydrogen is just water vapor. That's fine, but what's the source of the hydrogen? So as far as I understand, there's quite a process involved in converting natural gas, which is kind of the main feedstock that they're using to convert into hydrogen, that there is quite a process and there's a lot of energy needed to convert natural gas into hydrogen. So I'm kind of thinking it's tough to make sense of that process in my head, where you're taking natural gas, which is a fairly clean burning fuel already, to make it into a purely clean burning fuel in terms of hydrogen. But the process to get it there is, there's a lot to get it there. Let's just say that. So, okay, you might say that, well, we shouldn't be burning anything anyways. Well, okay, let's look at that. So what would we need to get there? So let's say we want to convert all of our heating needs. And again, I'm just talking about home heating. I'm not even talking about industrial processes at this point, which we still do need. But let's just say we wanted to just satisfy our home heating needs with electricity. So if we just said, okay, let's not burn anything. Let's just convert everything to electricity. Well, what would we need to do to replace our furnaces, for example? So, okay, if we're going to take our furnaces out, or we're going to do a retrofit with an electric heater in them somehow, or whatever that's going to look like, or just take them out completely and replace all of our, all the forced air processes that we have in our homes with baseboard heaters or whatever, whatever that's going to take. Okay, so let's do that. What's the cost going to be? What's the timeline for getting that done? But before we can even think of that, let's look a little further up the line. So from our house, and looking at the wire that comes into our house from the power pole in the back, or if it comes from underground from a transformer, okay, let's look at that. Does that line have the capacity to satisfy all the heating needs that you have now? Okay, and if it does, okay, great. If not, okay, well, that's going to need to be upgraded. So that's not super cheap. Let's look a little further at the power line that's running in the back alley, or the main distribution lines running underground. If you've got underground power lines, do those have the capacity to supply every house now with all of its heating needs and all of its existing needs? And again, I'm just talking about home heating here. I haven't even touched on electric cars. That's probably a whole other video. But do those distribution lines now have the capacity to take care of our home heating needs? If they do, okay, that's great. The transmission lines, so the big towers that have the high voltage transmission lines, do we have enough capacity in those lines to supply all of our home heating needs? If we were to flip the switch over to satisfying all of our home heating needs, I emphasize the word need, with electricity. Okay, and if not, okay, how are we going to replace those? What's the cost? What's the timeline? What's the resources that are going to be needed? Because those wires don't just magically hang in the air. There's a significant amount of commodities that are needed to construct all that infrastructure. Let's go further up the line now to the power generation process. Do we have the power plants that are needed to satisfy the home heating needs? And if not, what are we going to need? And then what are we going to fuel those power plants with? So if we wanted to go purely green, the greenest thing that people are talking about is nuclear. So now we've got to mine some more uranium, and that's okay for us. And here in Alberta, we've got a lot next door in Saskatchewan, lots of uranium there, so that's fine. Our the fuel part is not a problem. So that's fine, but those power plants aren't going to build themselves. And how many of those power plants are we going to need? Where are they going to be located? Because as far as I can tell, nobody wants those in their backyard. You do have some waste that you're going to need to deal with. So there is that issue. Also, when you build the power plants, you're going to have to build the transmission lines to supply back to the distribution grid. One of the problems that I've heard that with transmission lines is that you lose about anywhere from I stand to be corrected with my numbers here, but anywhere from 10 to 30% of the energy put in to the lines or fed into the transmission lines are lost just to line losses. So it's as it was explained to me one time, it's basically kind of like if you think of friction. So anytime you put anything into any kind of a conduit. So in this case, you're cramming electrons through wires, right? And there's going to be some friction in that process. There's no perfect way to transmit anything. Even water pipes, you lose some of the pressure in the lines or you lose some of the flow because of the friction of the pipe itself and the water going against the side of the pipe. So that's kind of how it was explained to me. So there's a tremendous amount of power that's lost in the transmission process. So you either have more local generation, which there's some good arguments for having more distributed, localized generation, so that you don't have large portions or large areas dependent on one power generating facility. But there are some issues to work out there. So that, and like I said, this all just covers home heating requirements in an area like this, where you've got, where we have winter for basically half of the year. Not quite half the year, but sometimes it seems like half the year. So there's a lot to solve there, and I think that there's a lot of things to work out before we can get there. So the bottom line is, we're going to be a long time, I think, before we're able to flip the switch over to purely green energy solutions. So there's going to be some opportunities there in the meantime. There's going to be some problems to figure out, which is where some of the opportunities come from. So I'm kind of thinking of this from a lot of different standpoints. So when it comes to just, practically speaking, how are we going to stay warm in the winter 10, 15, or 20 years from now? And same with my kids too. How are we going to do that? Also, what are some of the investing opportunities that are there? Because with these problems, there's always solutions that are needed, and it's in those solutions where certain opportunities come in. Also, sometimes the baby gets thrown out with the bathwater in some of these solutions, and that creates some opportunities too. So what I've been hearing is that because there has been so little investment in hydrocarbon production the last few years, that's creating an opportunity too, because we're finding out, especially with the war happening right now, we're finding out that, hey, we really need these energy sources. Japan and Germany, a couple of famous instances there where Japan and Germany have both come to Canada saying, hey, Canada, it'd be great if you would produce some more of your energy and ship it over to us. And I'm at risk of going on a long political tangent here, but of course our Prime Minister said that there's no business case. But I guess we will still, but for some reason the U.S. has found a business case for it and have built a number of LNG facilities, or they have a number under construction. I believe one or two of them is actually in operation and shipping natural gas to Europe, which needs it badly. So there's obviously a business case for that. There's a business case to ship our natural gas through the U.S. and then on to Europe. but no business case to do it here. I don't know why. It doesn't really add up for me, but it just seems very interesting. So I would kind of wonder about that a little more. But anyways, before I go off on a long political tangent, like I said, I just wanted to turn the camera on, try something a little different today, and just see what came out. I'm going to cut it off there. I'm going to get home. I'm going to have to turn the car on here and burn some hydrocarbons and then get myself home, get to that warm house, and I'm going to enjoy the evening. So you all enjoy your weekend. We'll see you in the next video. You all take care, stay warm, and bye for now.